The words that will comfort me, I am. The words that inspire me, I am.
Hello, and welcome to That Oneness Guy Podcast, a podcast covering the many aspects and elements that embody oneness, our inherent eternal truth and birthright, reminding us that we are connected to one and all as individualized expressions of one source. I am your host, Danny Rongo, and yes, I am that oneness guy. As an author, speaker, and singer-songwriter, I continue to share my unique message of oneness. So, let's get right into podcasting.
To words that encourage me, I am.
Hello, my friends in oneness, and thank you again for tuning in. You know, I'm really looking forward to this episode because I'm getting a chance to revisit one of the original topics of That Oneness Guy podcast. And that, my friends, is to speak with a fellow spiritual author. And not just another spiritual author, but one who shares the same publisher with me as well. And this is actually how our paths crossed. You see, we found each other on LinkedIn as Balboa Press authors. So let me tell you a little about Diane Calabrese. Diane Calabrese was practicing as a recreational therapist for 30 years. She holds a master's degree of science in healthcare policy and management and a bachelor's degree of science in therapeutic recreation. More recently, Diane has continued her education, getting certificates in various holistic healing modalities that is her passion today. Diane has worked in many diverse healthcare settings. She is a seasoned adjunct professor for Florida International University. Diane also has a diverse background in healthcare management. She has experience writing professional publications and did a cable interview on the public access channel with Dr. Larry Weiss, Associate Director of the Family Service League, called the Center of the Issue, regarding their Saturday recess program, for which she was the pioneer in establishing. Now, my friends, that's her bio, but I also want to share some information about her book that we'll be highlighting on this podcast. The book is called Mind, Body, Spirit, and Discovering the Purpose of Life. Now, on her website, Diane describes the book like this, and I quote, "In this book, I would like to mentor you on how to utilize holistic healing modalities in your life to help you cope, to help reduce anxiety and stress with life struggles. We are not in this alone, whether you are rich or poor, have sickness, or in good health. No matter what upbringing or childhood experiences you've endured, you are not alone. You have never been alone. We have to remember we are all children of God. We have unique personal experiences and encounters in life, but we all came from the same universal life force, and that is God." Now, my friends out there, you know that that's right on board with what I talk about. So this book and the message and the concept resonate with me personally on so many levels, and I'm really excited to learn more about it. So guys, please say hello to my new friend in oneness, Diane Calabrese. Hello, Diane.
Hello. Thank you for having me on the show.
Listen,
I
man.
appreciate it so much.
No. Thank you. I almost made you blush, I feel. Like, I'm looking at you now. Are you blushing, or is that just the lighting?
Probably a little bit. I'm not used to being on camera. That's new to me.
That's fine. But and like everything that I just read, especially the way that you describe your book here, you know what I mean? It just resonates with me. It hits home, and that's why I have to have you on the show, because it's all about trying to share our message, Diane. As I'm sure that you know, life's tough, but with people like yourself trying to do things like share a message, you know, it's wonderful. So thank you again. So basically, how are you? Are you well and everything's going good?
I'm doing good. I'm doing good.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm just so happy to, have written this book, and I have another book on the way, that's soon to be published. But this is really my life journey, really, to just help others. And doing this book just gives me the opportunity to help other people that need help. And there's a lot of struggles in life today.
Yeah.
People are
Yeah.
very stressed out with anxiety
Yeah.
and
Especially,
depression,
and it's just one thing after another, and
yeah.
so that's beautiful. So listen, let's dive right into it, please, because I want to hear a little more about it, and I'm sure my listeners do too. Tell me, Diane, like, what led you in life to bring you to this point, to bring you to your spirituality, where you're in turn writing now multiple books about a spirituality. So give us your story, my friend.
Sure. Well, I've always, my family was always very religious and spiritual. Especially my mother. She would always, I was brought up always, learning about God. God was always a topic of conversation in my household. So, I always had strong faith. And since the time I was little, you have this epiphany of what you want to do later on in life. And it was always to help other people. And I wasn't sure what at a very young age, but I just always knew I wanted to be in healthcare. So, I explored different, opportunities or, ideas. But working in a hospital, my first job in a hospital was working at Brunswick Hospital in Amityville. And I was working in the admitting department there. And I just happened to meet different, people in the field. And they said, well, what about recreational therapy? And then, he started to, tell me more about it. So that's what I ended up doing. And what I love about recreational therapy is that there's so many different things that you could bring to the table.
Mm-hmm.
So I would do, a combination of different things, whatever their patient's interest is. But, some people are more talented in art or music or, psychotherapy or whatever it is, that they would do more groups in. But I just explored all areas, and I always bring spirituality and God into that, just to help people get through and cope through life. So I would say about 10 years ago, holistic healing modalities became very, very popular, and that really resonated with me more than anything.
Yeah.
And that's, I was started working at the VA. That was my last job as a recreational therapist. Now I'm retired. But I would say, I started to take these, certificate courses in meditation and aromatherapy and Reiki, and I couldn't get enough of it. I started to take more and more, and I geared a lot of my groups around those holistic healing modalities. And it really resonated with a lot of the patients. They really enjoyed it. It's something, those are tools that you could take with you and
Sure.
and continue the practice on your own and learn more about it.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And it really, works. So, then I thought about, okay, this is why I'm going to write a book, and focus each chapter on a different, holistic healing modality. My favorite was always meditation. So I ended up focusing my second book on meditation. But, so, it's just, I guess, just from, working with different patients and different personalities, you have to find what their interest is in.
Yeah.
Some people don't want to have much interest in spirituality,
Yeah.
or they don't want to talk about God. So you have to respect that. But then
You sense that, I'm sure, right?
yeah, you sense that. But
like
I
you
would,
hear it right away.
yeah, in like 90% of the cases, though, they do want to learn about it.
Especially,
they do,
yeah.
yeah, especially when they need help and are in a hospital or.
Mm.
So.
Oh, I love the correlation with like what you said already about coming from like the healthcare industry and how it just naturally, over time, I guess, with you and over your experiences, it kind of just weaved its way into, more of you growing spiritual,
Yeah.
spiritually is what it sounds like. And that's such a natural progression
It is.
because in
Yeah.
healthcare, what do? You care for people.
Right. Right.
You know what I mean? Like
Exactly.
everyone has their story, Diane, and it's just great to hear it, especially how they all come to find their own spirituality. Some people have had, some bad events happen to them. Some like people just like naturally just want to discover more and learn more. Some people like yourself, how you just said you came from, like already caring for people. Like I had a very brief stint in the healthcare community. I worked in a hospital. It was like one of my early jobs. I think when I was like just out of high school, even for a little bit, like 17, 18 years old. I worked in a emergency room of a hospital down by where I grew up, down the shore in Brick, New Jersey. And I actually loved it. I loved it, just to see, because I was an orderly. So I had to take the people down from their rooms, take them on the gurneys and take them down to the suites. Right. And the operating room, and they were always so scared. And rightfully so, you know what I mean? So I felt like I was helping them, like especially these like older men and women. They would like hold my hand and I'd say, you're gonna be okay, you're gonna be okay.
Yeah.
But like for me, that was something that instilled a little more about caring. Something I didn't do that long, but I never forgot that experience, to be honest with you.
You don't realize the little things that you do mean so much to people.
So I wound up getting back into it recently, but not in that capacity. I sing now in senior assisted living homes, like on the weekends and stuff like that. And I love it. So I still get to see those older men and women sitting in their wheelchairs and I get a chance to put a smile on their face. But it's beautiful. But so I wanted to ask you this too, only because I have a song title of the same name, but what made you settle on Mind, Body, Spirit?
I guess because, Mind, Body, Spirit has always been the title of my group that I ran at the VA.
Yeah. Okay. Oh, that's easy enough.
It's broad. And I remember my boss told me, don't title your groups as spirituality. You might interfere. They might not like it, administration. I said, okay.
Oh, all right. Yeah. Sounds like a naysayer.
So I said, okay, I'll do something very neutral, do Mind, Body, Spirit. So, and they were okay with that. So, and then I just focused the group around different things. It was actually better because then it wasn't so focused on one topic. I can kind of make it a little bit broader, and it worked, and they liked it. And I have to say that some patients, or that I work with, they didn't necessarily like all the holistic healing modalities. It would like one or the other, or everybody has a different opinion. So in the group, I would just change it every week. I would do something different.
Oh, that's great. It keeps it fresh,
it keeps it fresh, different. So it worked. And when I wrote the book, I said, I'm going to keep that same title because it worked in the groups when I was working at the VA. And then I wanted to add discovering the purpose of life because I think that's always a question that's always on people's minds. It's like, what is my purpose? And especially working in mental health, it's you always had to have goals, and they always sometimes had a hard time. They had a hard time with coping skills, but getting a goal to get out or to change their habits, to move on. And so what we used to do was like a leisure education group, and we sort of went through different like worksheets and they would discover what their interests are, what their gifts are. And that is your purpose, to bring to life what your gifts are and share them with other people, to help other people. But everybody has a unique way of doing that. Like yours is singing. You can sing. I can't sing, but I could do art. I could do meditation. So we all have different gifts that God gives us. So
this is your gift too, your writing and your message. Please don't ever underestimate that. It is.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
So I just wanted to, so I have like different sections in the back of the book things that they can go through to help them, you know, maybe realize, hey, that is a gift of mine, or I can
Yeah.
do that, or, you know.
Yeah.
So it's your special gifts and what you do with it. So,
And I've always loved the wholeness that that trilogy of words represents: mind, body, spirit. Which is why I used it in so many things over the years. I actually, like I said, I wrote a song that I have that as the title. You know, because while we're here, that's exactly what we have to come to understand is
yeah,
what is that correlation? What keeps these three facets together: the mind, the body, the spirit, you know, and it has to be addressed. And that just leads right into oneness with me. That's
yes,
basically, you know, it in a nutshell. When I
right,
when I talk about oneness, it's not just oneness meaning like, all right, I'm a human being, you're a human being, I won't hurt you, you don't hurt
right,
me. Nowadays, people just look at it for that,
right,
you know, Diane, and I'm like fine with it, but I try to go deeper than that. I'm like, yes,
yeah,
it means that we shouldn't hurt each other as human beings, but it also means that we emanate from one source.
right,
You can call
true,
that source whatever. You can call that source. I still use God because it's, to me, it's the most identifiable. You can use God. You can use other names, people, spirit, soul, but you know, like whatever you call your higher source. I like to say, just know that you come from that, and you're just that individualized expression of that. You're a piece of that,
right.
which typically leads to another conversation. So what you're saying is that I am God, and I'm like, in a way, yes.
You have God in you.
Yeah, yeah, you're part of
Yeah,
it. You know what I
yeah,
mean? And a
yeah,
lot of people still don't like get that. And because I was raised a fairly devout Catholic, and like over time,
yeah,
I honestly just drifted away,
yeah,
because I just felt that, you know, one is a like a business, which I always felt that religion is, and to me, spirituality represented, okay, this is something I'm discovering.
yeah,
You know, so how, you know, how can I pay homage to this and still look at how I was raised? Well, very easily. You got to just do it with an open mind, right? That's what I try to tell
right,
people. Like, I never tell
yeah,
people to, you know, to stop practicing, or that this way is the right way. No, that's never what it's about. You know, like people like you and I, we're just sharing what we share because we're compelled to, because we're
right,
driven to. That's like why we're writing books about spirituality called Mind, Body, Spirit, and discovering the purpose of life.
right,
Right?
right, right.
Yeah.
Yeah. I like you. I was a Catholic. I was raised Catholic, and you know, I think with any religion, I always say that not one of them is 100% correct.
Sure.
It's like I'm more of a Christian than you. Well, Catholic is Christian, but there's a lot of things, of course, in the religion because man runs religion. So we don't always like the rules that they might, you know,
Yeah.
have come down. I mean, they make mistakes. We know that.
Yeah.
But that's not what God is about. God is not about religion. God is about faith in him. And, you know, and I believe in Jesus, his son.
Sure.
So you know, it's getting to know God for who God is. It's not about necessarily the religion, you know.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, it can get, you know, difficult to understand for some people, but you know, the whole idea is, because I used to teach catechism too,
Oh yeah. Okay.
and you know, they teach in very simple terms for children, you know, just that God is love, you know. So we'll start from there. God is
That's,
peace, God is love, you
I just
know.
wish that that would be the common theme going forward. Why don't,
Yeah,
you know, I would like to see the churches leave it at that.
yeah,
God is love, you know.
yeah, yeah. And you
Yeah.
know, nobody's excluded from it. We're all children of God. You know, the requirements or the things that you're supposed to do might change from each church to, you know, different church, and some people don't believe in Jesus in the, you know, aspect of religion, and but you know, that's their choice, I do, of course. I think, but it's but the core part that's important really is to learn to love and to learn to have peace in the world. And
I would
they have
be,
free will to choose
yeah.
whatever religion they want to
And
practice.
exactly,
But
if we just, looked at the simplicity of that, like you just come from love, you're love, God is love. Like, why is there just this still there's yet another war going on right
I
now, and
know.
there's an atrocity on the other side of the planet once again. Like in my last book, Diane, I which I had to edit down because I really went over the top with it, because I was sitting home through COVID lockdown.
Yeah.
So I just started writing and writing and writing. But I had to make the point that probably throughout the history of us as a species, almost, like, have we ever known time where there was peace? And you can go back, and I go, keep going back. You talk about, the Romans, go back further, Genghis Khan, let's keep going back. There has never been a time where we've experienced true peace. And especially nowadays, it's just, that's the separateness. Now that's my objective with like oneness, to let people understand that. Look at what we've experienced. So even more so, most people know is this separateness.
Yeah.
And they believe that their skin is the right color. They speak the proper language. They were born on the right side of a track or a state dividing line. There's so much divisiveness, and it's like it's really just for no, because all we're doing is hurting each other and killing each other. And it just baffles me that we just continue to go down this like rabbit hole of destruction. And it's my mission to try and help to some degree. I've been doing my part, and I'll continue to. But man, it's like still, this is 2022, and we're still having this conversation about killing other people. For what? For land? For property? Like, come on.
I know, it's terrible. I know.
Right?
It's awful. It's awful what's going on right now in Ukraine. And
yeah,
I mean, people do need to learn how to live in peace, but they have to understand that a lot of people, they still believe like this is it. I don't know how they could believe that we're just a body and we die, but we're a spirit first.
yes.
And that's what I want to emphasize. We're a spirit first, like you. And our spirit came from somewhere. It had to be God. I don't believe, I don't know how people can just believe it just appeared perfectly.
They just,
like
yeah. Like, so here we are, we're thrust into this thing that grows into a body, but like the skin, this isn't you. You know what I mean? The skin, the hair, the bones, that's not you. You're the captain of this vessel.
Right.
I have a dear friend of mine, Caroline Chang, who has a podcast called Awaken to Oneness Radio. And she said it so perfectly a couple of years ago to me. She goes, Danny, these bodies are nothing more than a spacesuit. We're just like astronauts. Just how an astronaut gets into a spacesuit. You make sure that it runs properly, but he can't go anywhere once he's out in space without the spacesuit. He needs it. Same thing with us. This is our spacesuit while we're here.
Exactly.
You know what I mean? And so this is finite, but we are not finite. We are infinite beings.
Right.
Yeah. And but again, people tend to look at that as dogma, maybe, or some like far-fetched stuff, like, oh, that's like, blah, blah, blah. Like, well, all right. So maybe you haven't come to a point in your life yet where something like that has resonated with me. Well, with you, I should say. But with that said, it will. Everyone finds their time. It will. And place.
I think that people will be more awakened to it as eventually. even though I'm Catholic, and I know the
Mhm.
Catholic religion doesn't believe in reincarnation, and that's what I say with some religions, I don't believe 100% of everything in the Catholic religion, but I don't know for sure. I don't think any of us really know, except those that had a near-death experience.
Yeah.
And
there's plenty of them too, by the way.
there is, and I listen. I read all their books. You know,
How about Anita Murjani?
yeah. I even had an out-of-body
She's a Hay House
experience.
person. Yeah.
Yeah, and I had an out-of-body experience. I wouldn't call it a near-death experience, but an
Oh, really?
out-of-body experience I did have.
Wow.
And I can
You care to share?
Yeah, sure, absolutely. It's in my book, actually.
Good. I want to hear it.
Yeah, I've always been like a type of person that I like when I was sleeping, I would freeze. I don't know if you ever heard of that. Or your body just kind of like shuts down and just freezes where you can't move. It's sleep.
interesting.
It was slipping my mind. It's sleep paralysis. And but even sometimes I could just get into a state where I could leave. And it happened to me a couple of years ago, and it's very different from being in a body. Your spirit just goes very quickly, and I went out into the universe faster than the speed of light. I'm like going through the stars, like you're going so fast you don't even realize it. And there's
Wow.
one message that I got from, and I felt God around me. I didn't see him, but I felt protected, not scared at all at any point. And I think he was just showing me something, you know. That was the message I was getting. I was just being shown something, because I always had questions of what's on the other side or what happens. And I just felt like I was, you know, in prayer. And I always pray at night in my mind sometimes, not even formal prayer, just talking to God. And it was sort of, my experience was like, do you ever see the movie Scrooge, where he sees different windows
Sure.
of heaven? And I was in the universe, and he was showing me, see, these people are like, and he's not talking to me with words, just in my mind. And, you know, so life goes on, and I'm looking through, and I knew I couldn't go through or in, because I knew I wasn't dying. But I did see windows of heaven, of what it's like.
Wow.
And my father had passed about 20 years ago. And the last room I saw was him with his family. Now, I knew it was his ancestors, but I never met his cousins or anything like that. But I knew they were family. I just instantly knew it.
You just knew that because there was that energetic connection. You didn't have to see anything. You just sensed their energy.
Yeah.
That's beautiful.
And he was sitting in a living room with them, just talking like you would here on the earth. They were just having a conversation, and his back was towards me. And then he felt me, and he got up, he turned around, and he said, "What are you doing here? It's not your time."
Really?
And then he looked past me, and I think what he saw was God, but I couldn't see God, but God was around me. And he goes, "Oh." And then I was quickly in my body. So it was like just a visit, you know, and I was back like immediately.
Wow.
The one message that I got was, science, I know this. Science will never be able to explain the afterlife, because our science is not the physical science that we have here, like physics. It doesn't explain the afterlife.
No. Yeah.
So these scientists might want to try and debunk it or whatever. It's not going to work, because the science, they will never have the language or understanding for the spiritual realm. No. That's one thing I got. And it's funny, that resonated me with somebody else, and I can't recall her name, but she was on YouTube, and she did have a near-death experience, and she spoke to God, and God told her that. So I said, see, you know, sometimes you do need a little confirmation that it did happen. It wasn't just a dream, but it was so real, the experience. It was realer than anything, you know. And I can actually just, I felt like I was there. It was like a normal memory, you know, but you have your senses and more, you know.
Everything's heightened.
Yeah, it's very heightened, but it was quick. It was a quick experience for me. I wouldn't call it a near death. I didn't think I was dying or anything like that. I knew it was just a visit, and I knew I
Yeah.
had to go back quick.
Yeah.
But
That's kind of similar to how,
yeah,
I haven't had anything to that point to what you said, but I always just look at dreams, and for the people who just think that we're these bodies, and the people who are basically afraid to die, like in my talks, I've gone just straight blunt to people and have asked them straight out. I would say, are you afraid to go to sleep at night? And they say, well, absolutely not. And I say, well, then why would you be afraid to die? And they go, well, I don't get it. I say, well, it's the same thing. What are you doing? You're going from one conscious to another level of conscious,
right.
where you're able to, you can find yourself flying in dreams. Everything is right.
Yeah.
Different. It's a different level of consciousness, and you know that because you wake up and say, oh, I had a dream. So you're acknowledging that you've had a
Yeah.
visit or something to another realm, per
Right.
se. Like, to me, I believe that that's our dress rehearsal
Right.
for when we cross over. Or I don't use the word die. I just use when we, transcend,
Right.
to that next realm. And that's all it is. It's a matter of how we wake up in the morning. We're going to wake up and we're just going to be back home,
Yeah.
as we like to say.
Exactly. That's how
Again.
I see it too. Yeah.
Yeah. So, I try to find my ways to like break things down and stuff like that, because everyone could look at us and say, well, how do you know? Because I'm like, no, but this is how, again, I
Yeah.
choose to
Right.
look at things,
Right.
because I know, and like nowadays I have these reoccurring, I've been having the same like themes for dreams for decades. Always by the water, because I was raised down the Jersey Shore. Like the ocean calls me
Yeah.
in so many ways. What I mean? That's not an accident in my mind. But we have to come to know that, there is something else. And
Yeah.
people will find their way at some
Yeah.
point in time. But all right. I also wanted to, before we get ahead of ourselves, I definitely want to hear some more insight, Diane, about the specifics of the holistic healing modality. So maybe like if there's a couple that you can touch on, because I know that I'm very
Sure.
interested, and I'd love to hear more. I'm sure that my listeners would as well.
Sure. One of my favorites is Reiki. I am a Reiki master, and
Yep.
I
Good for
learned
you.
that when I was working at the VA. I took a course on my own through Udemy. I took a couple of courses. They have really good online courses, but I started practicing it when I was at the VA because I work with bedridden patients that
Okay.
were on ventilators, not
Yeah.
because of COVID, but because there were veterans that had Agent Orange and they were on a ventilator. So they
Yeah.
were at the end stage of life on palliative care. And as a recreational therapist, it's not normal that a recreation typically works individually at bedside with patients, but in this case, I did. So, and I was actually why I was hired full time to work there. So there wasn't many activities that I could do with them because they didn't have use of their hands. So I started to get into the holistic healing, and I had one patient who was very young, and well, young, I say in her 50s. I'm in my 50s, but she wasn't older, having any, issue. It's just something that happened suddenly that she was on a ventilator, and she really wasn't too keen on recreational therapy at first. So I said, why don't we, try, meditation, and would she like that? And then I got into Reiki with her, and she really loved it. And when I did it, I always do hands over first,
Do
because
you? Yeah.
you could do
Yeah.
hands on or hands over.
Yeah.
With the patients, I did hands over. But she felt the energy, right away. She said, Diane, she goes, after I went through the different chakras of the body and different hand placements, she goes, I can feel that energy. She goes, I feel so light again,
That's great.
and it was remarkable. And the next thing I know, she's starting to do more physical therapy. In addition to that, though, she had told me that her aunt bought her holy water. So between the holy water and that, she, all of a sudden she started walking, like she would participate in physical therapy more. And, so she started walking again, where she wasn't moving her arms or her legs. So it really made a difference. Now, I
Yeah.
can't say that it was from the Reiki alone, because, these holistic healing modalities, they help. They're in conjunction with traditional medicine. But you never know, so
It's
I say,
another opportunity to have,
yeah, sure.
any kind of blockage removed.
Yeah.
Sure that you, like when you're doing, especially like hands-on or hands-over, I'm sure that you can feel it coming up,
Yeah.
because I always talk to my sister Angela is a Reiki master too. So like when I get to her house, sometimes she'll like take me upstairs to her office. She has a table there, then she'll like do some Reiki on me and stuff like that. And there's been times when she'll just tell me, she goes, Dan, I feel it just coming straight up. Like she has to actually shake it off. Like she feels it, like whatever she's pulling out of me, go up her hands and up her arms. She shakes it off physically because she feels it. So that's intense. But I'm a big fan of Reiki. I have another friend of mine and my wife's who actually does weekly sessions for me and my wife Andrea, but she does it, I guess, distance through distance, because she lives about 45 minutes away. But I'll be sitting there meditating, like as she's doing it, I just feel the vibration. It's just I'm a fan. Always
it is
have been. I love
incredible.
Reiki.
You could do it on yourself too. There is self-healing. And
right?
I teach that course too. I do a Reiki lab at FIU where I teach. And so you can do it. When I do a group in recreational therapy, I had just taught the self-healing, because to go around individually in a group, it takes a lot of time. But I teach them how to do it, and it does work good. I mean, sometimes it could be more tiring if you're hovering over your own body parts and lifting your arms. But so it is more relaxing when somebody else does it, but it doesn't mean it doesn't work, because I had knee surgery, and I used to hover my hands over my knees, and I would also use a clear quartz crystal. And I have to say that really helped with the pain. I mean, it took it away.
Yeah.
If anybody had knee surgery, they would know it's a very sensitive body part, especially when you get operated on. And
absolutely.
it helps so much. So it does work. It's amazing. And you can feel the heat. You can feel the heat right out of your hands. So it's amazing.
I've been recently, like I mentioned before we started recording, as I'm going through my like journey here, like I've been diving into so many of the holistic approaches, like from Reiki. I have another dear friend who lives out in Oregon, who I don't know if you ever heard of Chios, CHIOS, which is, I guess, like an advanced Reiki, and she's a master in that. She performed a session on me, and she's going to again over the next week. She's actually known as Lisa, the Oneness Coach. So we automatically had a bond, her and I. But she's an angel, and but that session, I gotta be honest with you, Diane. I was like as I was laying on my bed, I had positioned crystals that she told me to have on each corner of the bed, and I remember laying there, and I went into like a really deep meditation. And like when I knew that she was starting, because she like said, all right, it'll be starting like at around 9 p.m. So I'm on my bed at the door closed, and I'm just getting deep meditating, and then out of nowhere I like felt a blanket come over me. Obviously there was no blanket coming over me. I just felt it. And it was her presence, her coming right into and through my whole body. So intense. I'll never ever forget it. And I am really looking forward to the one next week too. I was just talking to her last week. I was like, I need another one, Lisa. I need another. She goes, Danny, are you kidding? Absolutely. But I mean, stuff like that. I've been having acupuncture twice a month now. Speaking of therapists, I've been seeing a psychotherapist a few times a month now too. I've been doing everything that ties in with me with the radical remission process as I'm making my way through cancer. So it's been but I'm using every opportunity. So I applaud you for doing your Reiki.
Yeah.
But speaking also of meditation, I know that we discussed briefly about your up and coming book, Meditations for the Mind, Body, Spirit. Tell us about your meditation practice. Tell us about what you're going to be sharing with this yet new book, Diane. I'm excited to hear about this because me,
Sure.
for one, Diane, I don't know about you, but I still like, like when I go into meditate, I don't want to say like a hit or miss, but there's always about a 25 to a 35% chance that I might not get to the level that I want to, where I
Yeah.
feel it was a successful meditation. So
Right.
for the people out there who like say that it's hard, yeah, it is, but it's like with anything else, you have to do it. You have to continue to do it. So
Right.
share everything you want to talk about your practice
Sure.
of meditations and about the book.
Yeah, sure. Again, I started practicing meditation in the VA, and they did train us there. So I took that training right away because, like, again, that resonated with me so much. But the first stage, there's like 3 different stages of meditation. So the first stage is to just get rid of those distracting thoughts. Because it is hard, because as soon as you want to sit
very
down and
hard.
meditate, you're thinking about your laundry list or something else,
Of course.
So just to get rid of any of the problems that you have and the stresses, just getting rid of that. So once you can get past that stage, you're pretty good. And that's what helps with that is just working on breathing, just concentrating on breathing, inhaling
Correct.
through your nose and exhaling through your mouth. And what I used to say is just put your hands over your belly, because if you're touching something physically, for some people that helps.
That's a great point. In fact, I have to get back to that because I don't really
Yeah.
do that anymore. Like I just have my hands like on my lap typically, but
Yeah.
to your point, I know just feeling the breath going in and out,
Right.
that can definitely aid.
Yeah. Yeah.
Wow, good point.
It'll help with getting rid of the distracting thoughts. The other thing is just saying these 3 words, let it go. Like if you keep the monologue simple, like just 3 words or something, just let it go. Just saying let it go. Whatever it is that's bothering you, whatever's on your mind, because patients have told me with those words, with saying those words, just by thinking about those words, they're not thinking about other things,
Yeah.
So you're learning to just concentrate on something specific. So
I like that too.
That's
the
beautiful.
And then that's something that could aid me as well too.
Yeah. The second stage is to be able to, get rid, to let go of those distracting thoughts and to get yourself back on track. And then the third stage is to go into a deeper meditation where you're not going to be distracted by outside thoughts. That's harder to reach because, but the more you practice, the more you can do it. And I would work in a group where I would have patients at different levels, so to each their own, but when you're going through the meditation, some people can really just concentrate and block out all that noise or distraction, and where some people just can't. They'll hear something in the hallway or, and they just can't do it. So everybody's a little different. But
I'd be curious about the whole group setting because,
yeah,
like aside from me and my wife meditating together, I've like never done it in a group session.
yeah.
So,
Yeah, it can be distracting, especially if you're working in a hospital where doors can be opening. And I always try to put up signs, please don't disturb. We're having a meditation go on, but you'll always have a patient that wants to go to the bathroom or something. And I would say, please wait in between, because typically the way I used to do it is I would do the meditation and then have a discussion afterwards. So I would say, please wait until after the meditation's over. But yeah, that it can be hard. It's challenging.
And I would be curious too, honestly, about like the energy in the room, because I'm very receptive nowadays to energy in the room from other people, be it positive and like negative. So I could, it could be challenging to obviously trying to calm my own mind, but I might catch wind or catch something from someone, could be good or bad. Obviously, if it was a positive thing, that would be inspiring and that would help me get to the level that I want to. But if it was negative, I would probably feel it because I recognize things nowadays.
Yeah.
But interesting, man. So now how do you apply this all like to the book? Do you have chapters regarding these
I do.
levels? And,
Yeah, I do, because when I wrote the book, I had it in mind to help other therapists, whether it's recreational therapists or psychotherapists or psychologists, because there's so many different disciplines that use meditation in practice, like even nursing uses it and social workers use it. So I did put ideas for therapists in there, but it also could be applied to any individual that's practicing on their own as well. So
yeah.
I was gave examples for both,
Okay.
in the book, because you know what it is when you're a recreational therapist, especially. There's not a lot of resource tools out there. You always have to go to the library, and sometimes
Yeah.
it's not specifically on what you want to,
Yeah.
learn. So, and especially with the young students today, it's good to have more resources and some tips, on how to do that. But yeah, I think it just takes time. It takes practice, and with every group, it's different. I had some wonderful sessions in groups, and then I had other groups that, well, this just didn't work,
Yeah.
So it really depends on the dynamic of the group. But I would never force anybody to come in the group, like you have to attend this group.
No, of course not.
We didn't do that. So everybody knew what group was going to be run. It was going to be a meditation group, and I would always explain what to expect before we started. So with that being said, it was never really like negative, like, some people, when we talked about it before we went into another meditation, we would always talk about it, and I would find out for them just to, grab some ideas, like, what worked for you, what didn't work for you. And it's always good for me to know that. So, going forward with running the group. So it was always usually helpful information. So I don't necessarily think of it as negative, but helpful, for, going forward with the next practice, or especially working with that patient, so.
Wonderful.
Yeah.
Wonderful. So
yeah.
listen, so what's the upcoming, is there a release date for this book, or is it still going through the process?
Well, it's completed. So I just spoke to the project manager, and he just said that it should be out within the next week or two.
Oh,
So
wow. So it's close. Oh, good. Good.
Yeah, so
Good.
it should be very close. And I do have it on audiobook as well. So I did record my own meditation. So that will be on my website.
Wow. And I love audiobooks now, thanks to my wife, she's a huge fan of it, and she's always driving a lot, and she loves audiobooks, and I just jumped right on board because it's great to hear.
Yeah. It is. And not many people like to read. They're like, oh, I'm not a reader, but yet they'll listen to an audiobook
in the car. Yeah. And plus, and those narrators are like, are so talented, how they change their voices and dialects and accents and stuff like that. It's intense how they do it. For those kind of books, obviously, you know what I mean? Yeah. For like fictional books, it's intense. Right. It's good, man.
Yeah.
But hey, listen, man, that's what it's about. I'm excited for you, man. So you're going to be working with these two books here. Great news. So listen, speaking of that, Diane, why don't you, give everybody like a quick recap on how people can get in touch with you, how they can tune in and follow you, if your websites or any kind of social links. And like I told you before, I'll be sharing everything too in the descriptions of this podcast. So, but give everybody like a quick shout on how they can find you.
Sure. I published my book through Balboa Press, so you could always go to the Balboa Press website. I also have my own personal website, which Balboa Press, they monitor for me. So that's www.dianecalabrese.com.
Okay.
And I'm also on, you can find me on Pinterest, you can find me on LinkedIn, Instagram, Twitter. And the book is also sold on Amazon, Discovery Books. I think all the websites, Google Books, I think they have it all everywhere pretty much. Even Walmart, I see, has it. Some stores I didn't even know has it. So, they Balboa Press has it universal wide. So
Yeah.
yeah. So not universal, worldwide. I should say universal
Yeah.
wide, worldwide.
Hey, maybe universal. We don't know now, do
Yeah,
we?
we don't know.
We don't know that. I tend to think that
So,
there are some bookstores out there. Maybe there's a
yeah.
Barnes and Noble floating around somewhere.
Maybe.
Yeah. And
Who
it's like a
knows?
great thing when you see your book on a shelf, and it's
Yeah.
gratifying. Like the first time I saw it,
Yeah.
speaking of Barnes and Noble, out of Barnes and Noble, I was it's gratifying. It's the only word I can think about, because you see all your effort and it's there.
Right. Yeah, it
know?
is. It is. It is amazing.
But again, I will be sharing all of your information again for my friends who are listening. But so listen, my friend, with that said, Diane, I want to say thank you. I appreciate your passion. I appreciate your insight, and mostly your desire, like that commonality that we have to share a message to the world. And in your case, it's a beautiful one. So thank you.
Thank you. Thank you
my
so much for
friends.
having me.
Oh, please, absolutely. And for my friends listening, I want to thank you again for tuning in to this special episode. I've always said, man, I'm blessed to cross paths with souls like Diane, and as long as you guys keep tuning in, I'll keep sharing their message. So please tune in, stay in touch, and as always, until next time, I send you peace, love, light, and continued oneness. Namaste.
The words that will comfort me, I am.
I thank you again for listening to That Oneness Guy Podcast. Please take a moment to subscribe to this feed wherever you may be listening to or watching this podcast. And please look me up and follow me on social media. You can find That Oneness Guy on Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, and Twitter. Just search for That Oneness Guy. And finally, to stay in touch with all things oneness, my books, and performances, please visit my websites, thatonenessguy.com and dannyrongo.com. In closing, remember this: oneness is not a religion. You can call it a spirituality, but it is more than that. It is a truth and a knowing. The knowing that we emanate from one source. Just like branches on any one tree, we are individualized expressions of that source. This is the truth of our race, the human race.
I am one of many who have come to sing their song.